Hello, friends. Today I am not just narrating a story, I am starting a journey. This is a story I wrote during the lockdown, when the world felt strangely silent. The streets were empty, and fear lived inside every home. Back then, one question kept haunting me. If the world slowly started falling apart, would love, hope, and human connection still survive? This story was born from that feeling. I hope you will be part of this journey with me. Thank you. The doctor's car had not moved for 7 days. Every evening from my terrace, I stared at that white Honda parked beside the broken street light. Dust had settled on it, like time itself had stopped breathing. People in the neighborhood had already decided he was dead. Nobody checked, nobody knocked on his door. During lockdown, rumors traveled faster than ambulances, and fear made cowards out of everyone, even me. I could not feel my legs. My toes refused to move. They felt heavy, disconnected from the rest of my body. I tried standing up once, twice, then again. Pain shot upward from my knees. For a second, I thought it had happened. Corona, paralysis, death. But after a few tries, I managed to stand. I laughed at myself. I had simply been sitting on the terrace too long again. That was my routine during lockdown. Sit for hours. Watch empty streets, count ambulance sirens, return home with a strange emptiness. The city had become unrecognizable. Chaos had never been this silent before, and COVID-19 no longer sounded like the name of a disease. It sounded like the title of the end of the world. Back in my room, I looked into the mirror. My beard had grown uneven and wild. Another few days and I would stop looking like myself completely. I liked that thought. There was a bottle of antiseptic beside the drawer. I poured some on my hands, then rubbed it across my face and hair, just in case. Everything smelled of antiseptic during those days. Hands, doors, vegetables, fear. I wore dark glasses and looked into the mirror again. A few more days, I thought. Soon even I would not recognize myself. In the hall, my family sat watching the news. The television glowed like a funeral fire. More deaths reported today. Bodies increasing. New symptoms discovered. The anchor spoke without breathing. I stood there for a few moments before getting up. Everyone looked at me with disappointment, as if leaving the news early meant I did not care about the people dying. But the truth was, I could not hear another death count, not anymore. A few minutes later, I was back on the terrace. The apartment buildings stood close together like frightened strangers trying to survive a storm. Every balcony looked identical now. Masks hanging from clotheslines, sanitizer bottles near doors, dim yellow lights, people spying on each other through curtains. Fear had erased individuality. Even pigeons no longer flew away when human approached, as if they'd already knew we no longer mattered. I crossed the rooftop carefully and sat beside the water tank, waiting for her. 15 minutes later, I heard slippers scraping against concrete. She had arrived. "Hi," she said softly. I looked at her. No mask, no panic, no fear. Just calm eyes and loose hair moving with the evening wind. Sometimes I wondered if she even understood what was happening to the world. People were trying everywhere, Yet she smiled at sunsets. We sat quietly beside each other. Her slippers carried pigeon feathers and dust. She leaned back against the tank and stared at the sky. "What happened?" she asked. I looked away. How could I explain this feeling? That every cough sounded dangerous. That every fever felt like a death sentence. That every phone notification carried bad news. Sometimes I woke up at night just to check if I could still breathe properly. Sometimes I stopped myself from coughing loudly because I feared my own family would look at me differently. But I said none of this. Instead, I whispered, "Nothing." She smiled. That smile irritated me sometimes. How could someone remain this peaceful while the world collapsed? But then she laughed softly at something invisible in the sky, and suddenly the terrace did not feel lonely anymore. Her engagement ring reflected the orange sunlight. Our wedding had been scheduled for Wednesday. Lockdown cancelled it, like it cancelled everything else. Plans, jobs, festivals, funerals, goodbyes. "The silence is beautiful," she said. Beautiful? I almost laughed. The silence felt poisonous to me. No school bells, no traffic, no cricket in the streets. Only ambulance sirens and television anchors counting bodies. But she kept smiling, and somehow her calmness protected me from myself. A sudden gust of wind carried her fragrance toward me. For the first time that day, I smiled without forcing it. I touched her fingers gently, and for a moment, everything changed. The pigeons sounded normal again. The sunset looked warm instead of frightening. The world felt alive. Then she pointed toward the street below. "The doctor's car," she said. The white Honda stood beneath the streetlight, untouched, abandoned. "There are rumors he died," she whispered. I stared at the car, the neighboring doctor, a man who used to leave every morning at exactly 9. A man who once told me, "Fear spreads faster than viruses." Now even his absence had become gossip. That night, after she left, I could not stop thinking about it. What if he really was dead? What if one day people spoke about me the same way? He hasn't been seen for days. Maybe Corona got him. There used to be a man who stood on the terrace every evening, and slowly I would disappear from memory like dust washed away by rain. I walked downstairs and stepped onto the empty street. Dogs lifted their heads and watched me silently. The doctor's car was covered with thick dust. Children would have drawn shapes on it once, but children no longer played outside now. The world belonged to silence. I finally found his house, black iron gate, nameplate still hanging. I knocked. A dog barked violently inside. Then a man's voice answered. "Who is it?" The gate opened, and there he stood, alive, the doctor himself. Tired eyes, unshaven face, but alive. For a few seconds, I could not speak. How do you ask a man whether he is dead? I muttered some useless excuse and walked away. But inside me, something shifted. The rumors were false. Not everyone disappeared. Not every silence meant death. Not every abandoned thing was truly gone. The next evening, I climbed to the terrace again. The sunset looked softer somehow. And when she arrived, smiling exactly the same way as always, I realized something. Maybe hope survives quietly, like a light left on in a distant apartment window. Maybe love survives too. And for the first time in many weeks, the city no longer felt dead. Thank you for listening.